good. Never mind, we are recording. What's up? I'm Madalyne. This is my friend Olivia, and we're introducing our podcast called Another Picture Show.
Yeah.
I definitely did not tell Olivia I was going to do that, so that's why she sounded very taken aback.
Yeah. That was amazing. I'm glad that we have that recorded. But yeah, she is correct. I'm Olivia. That's Madalyne.
I am Madalyne.
And this is Another Picture Show podcast where we talk about movies. Most of the time, Madalyne has not seen the movies, and I come and tell her what we're going to watch. We go watch it and then come back and give our hot takes and big thoughts.
Oh, God, I love that line.
So, Madalyne, I've been a little conflicted on what we should watch this week. So I'm going to let you choose the vibe again.
Ooh. Okay.
All right. So we could go with weird and obscure.
Mm-hmm.
We can go with kind of lighthearted and funny.
Mm-hmm.
We could go with epic and adventure-ish.
Hmm.
Or we could go with another spooky movie. Or we could go with something that's Cats level bad.
Oh, I don't know if I want to do that. I'm still recovering from Cats.
Mm. We'll save that one then.
Let's do adventurous and epic. I want to save the funny one for next week.
Okay. All right. So we're going to watch Mad Max Fury Road.
Ooh, I've never seen Mad Max, but I referenced it a lot.
Why?
just the shot of Bane like on the car, like I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Not Bane.
Tom Hardy.
Hardy.
I know what you meant.
I'm dumb.
I know what you meant. It's all good. Cool. So you've never seen Mad Max?
Never seen Mad Max. I know where it was filmed, but I've never watched the movie.
Cool. Well, I guess we can go into it with as little commentary as possible. Just go in blind. I've seen it twice, and that's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
Because I have a lot to say. And when we come back.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I really don't know anything about the movie, so all I know is Tom Hardy, aka Bane, is in it, and Charlize Theron is in it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Cool. All right.
Go watch them be them bad selves in this movie, I guess.
Yep. So we're gonna go watch Mad Max Fury Road, and we'll be back with our review in 3, 2, 1. And we're back.
Oh boy.
We just watched Mad Max Fury Road. I'm really, really interested to hear your thoughts on this. So before I let you say anything, I'm gonna give the brief little info.
I will not be silenced.
Okay, so Mad Max Fury Road is a 2015 Australian post-apocalyptic action film and the fourth installment of the Mad Max franchise. Directed by George Miller and starring Tom Hardy, Charlize Theron, Nicholas Hoult, Hugh Keys Byrne, Rosie Huntington Whiteley, and Zoe Kravitz. Fury Road was nominated for 10 Academy Awards and won 6, including Best Editing and Best Production Design. So, like I said, it's the fourth installment in the Mad Max franchise. I did not make you watch the first 3 because I wanted you to watch this and we can talk about it as a standalone film. I'm going to give like a history of Mad Max later. Okay. But for now, we're just going to focus on Fury Road. So, Madalyne, before you give me your thoughts, can you give me a brief synopsis of the movie?
Okay. All right, so we start off, Max, as he is known, is standing on the side of a cliff. A lizard rolls up. He stomps on it and eats it. That's not important. I just thought it was hilarious. He gets snatched up by these like skinhead, powdery looking dudes, and essentially is like captured by this war clan and made to be a what they call blood bag. And because he's a O positive, he's the universal donor.
Mm-hmm.
So then he's captured by this war clan, and like I guess all the clans in this dystopian like post-apocalyptic world are like kind of in charge of like different resources. Like one's in charge of like bullets, or ammunition. The one that he's captured by is water and like food, sort of, but like definitely water, like these big ass pumps with water and shit. And then another is like gasoline. That's the only ones that you know / care about in this movie. And so Charlize Theron, aka Furiosa, bad bitch alert. She's like the top dog for this crusty ass warlord. Like he is nasty. He's like the Pillsbury Doughboy if he was a warlord. Like that's what he looks like. And also like Bane and the Pillsbury Doughboy like had a post-apocalyptic baby and like put him in like a plastic suit, and they're like go terrorize people and like restrict their water. That's who we're up against. And he's also like Grand Theft Auto King. So she's like the top dog for this guy, and her job is to drive this massive ass like fucking like Mustang like mounted onto a fucking gasoline tanker. And her job is to drive with like all her bad bitches, like her team, out to the gasoline town to trade or whatever and get gasoline. And I guess the whole squad goes because in the event of like little bandits and shit trying to take them out. So what she does instead, Zoops, is she goes off-road, and she has like precious cargo with her, but we don't really know. We're like, what's she doing? She's going off the road. She's going down Fury Road.
She's going rogue.
She's literally gone rogue. And then they find out, oh, she took Doughboy's mates. Like he literally just like has these like quote unquote wives. He's got these mad hot women, 6 of them, and he like okay, so everybody in this movie, like sans Max, Furiosa, and the 6 wives, are like just crusty. Like everyone's crusty. They all got like they're all dying of some sort of like nuclear radiation, like fallout. Literally fallout from the nuclear radiation is like killing them. That's why they have like half-lives and stuff like that. So everybody in this movie is crusty except for those like 8 people. And I'm like, I don't get it, but maybe like they don't have the effects. Whatever, it doesn't matter. So anyway, so they find out the 6 wives are gone, and like Doughboy is pissed because he knows that Furiosa like snatched him. So he gets his little like skinheads, and they all jump in these like crazy ass cars. Like I love the cars. They're so. Also, side note, very quick side note, the dude playing the guitar the whole time, that's me. So if I can play the guitar, that's all I would want to do in the post-apocalypse, is just be like the hype man while we're going.
When all the resources are very limited, that's super necessary to have like this giant.
That's what I thought. I was like, y'all are dying, and yet you need a hype man. Like what's going on? So anyway, so they go after, and then Nicholas Holt, who is Nook. That's his name, Nook.
Nux.
Mm-hmm. So Nux. He's one of the skinheads. He's crusty. He's hooked up to Max because he needs new blood because he's dying. Like he's constantly dying. So he's like, I want to go so bad. So they like hook the quote unquote blood bag up to the car. They take off. And after that, they essentially like join forces with Furiosa and the 6 wives. And they are trying to go to like some sort of like paradise on the other side of like the desert, the endless desert. But they run into a lot of like, bad people on the way, and it's about friendship and redemption, sort of survival in the apocalypse. And it was good, man. But if I were alive after the fallout of this nuclear war, I would simply pass away. Like there is no way you catch me dead. You catch me alive, working, trying to survive, trying to struggle on like a fucking like mini scooter that is somehow mounted to like monster truck wheels. Like I just couldn't do it.
Would that be your vehicle of choice? Is a like a moped?
With 2 massive wheels.
Yeah.
I would want to be either obviously the guitar guy, the hype man. That's the sick, relatively easy job. And then they took the little like hood off him and he didn't have eyes, and I was like, I get it. Like
I think he's supposed to be deaf and mute, which is like the only thing he can do is play guitar because he can feel the vibrations. Well, so they just like strap him. I mean, like he's just strapped to the top of this like monstrosity of a vehicle for hours on end.
Horrendous.
Drumming away on his guitar.
The nastiest, like so the cars are so cool, but they're also some of the like nastiest things I've ever seen. I was like, I get it. Like necessity is like just, you know, the whatever mother of innovation. I forget what the actual phrase is, but that's just excessive. I feel like you could have, you know, toned it down a little bit. You guys weren't that desperate because you guys like had like you souped up these bitches. Like, yeah, you chopped and changed, but you also like literally made them into war machines when it's like a Volkswagen Beetle. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's kind of like it's pretty interesting looking at, if you look at all of the cars closer, like they're so detailed and they're based around like who drives them, and like you don't have time to really see all the details during the movie because it's just like a lot of action going this way and then a lot of action coming back this way.
I like the idea of like the pyramid of like the wheel, like the steering wheels.
Yeah,
that was kind of neat because it's like, well, yeah, you each have your own. It's like a key, but like, you know, who the fuck has the time to like, you know, like find your fucking keys when you just have a whole ass steering wheel and you just chunk and that's it.
It's just, you know, when you live in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, how can you still make something beautiful and personal to yourself, like out of junk that you find, you know, random shit that you find from the before times?
True. I suppose that's right. I get it.
That's kind of what each of the cars and steering wheels and all that stuff is made out of. Just random things that have been repurposed to make really badass looking cars. But yeah, so you said that you liked it. Do you have any other initial thoughts about the movie?
Well, so I had of course heard of Mad Max and Fury Road and all that, but I didn't know that the original Mad Maxes were old as hell. Like I didn't know they were like from the 80s. And then I also thought for some reason that Charlize was Max. Like I thought the series was about like a woman in a post-apocalyptic world, which like it was still a good movie. Like it was still great. Like, you know, Tom Hardy did a surprisingly good job for having like almost no lines. But yeah, I was like mildly disappointed when I was like, oh, it's more about Tom Hardy. Okay.
See, I didn't think it was about him.
I didn't either, but like it was like he was like the quote unquote main character. Like he's the one the series is based off of is Max like what Ranatansky or whatever the hell his name is.
Yeah, Rockatansky. I don't know. You know, you get it. Look it up on IMDb.
I love all the characters' names, even if you don't know them. Like they don't say their names, like the credits. I was like reading all the names. I was like, oh, these are so weird. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the reason why I wanted to watch this as part of our like women leading movies, because this is a Mad Max film, but Mad Max kind of takes a back seat in this one. It's more about Furiosa and like what she's doing, and Max is just kind of there to help, kind of. But even then, he's
a reluctant ally in this situation.
He's just kind of along for the journey.
I actually like them.
Yeah, he's just kind of along for the journey. So, what else did you like about it?
Okay, well, I knew it was filmed in Australia, but I thought it was like post-apocalyptic, like England or something, like it's like fucking Tom Hardy's British, you know what I mean? So I was like, wow, like I thought that was really cool that it was like such a drastic like result of like nuclear war that literally the climate completely changed and it's like this wasteland, there's no ocean and shit like that. I was like, damn, that's sick. And then you were like, Australia. That's why I was like, Australia.
I mean, it was filmed in Namibia. So it was filmed in Africa, but it takes place in Australia.
Oh,
when we do the history of these movies, like the history of this film in particular and like how it got made, it's like crazy because they've been trying to make this film since like 1997. But like everything kept going wrong, and so the locations kept changing, but they eventually got it made in Namibia because it's, you know, a desert and fits the aesthetic and all that fun stuff.
Neato.
Yeah.
But no, I liked the world. Again, I would simply pass away if I existed in it, but I liked the idea of it. Cause like you think like post-apocalypse, like it's like zombies and like nasty creatures. Like I'm thinking like, you know, I Am Legend, like fucking, you know, all the zombie movies, like that's usually like post-apocalypse, like the whole show Walking Dead, like that's normally what you think about, or A Quiet Place, like it's always like creatures and like or aliens and shit. This is like, or even like this I liked because it's like it's almost slightly more realistic, like what the world would be like after a nuclear like war. Like global, obvious. It feels like it's global. I feel like this is everywhere. I feel like if it was just Australia, like why did the rest of the world just leave them there? You know?
Yeah.
They
fuck off. Just stay there on your big island.
Suck a dick, Australia. We never liked you down under. So it's a global apocalypse, and like I said, like the mutations, like the illness, like all of that is very similar to probably what would happen if it was a global apocalypse. And like the hoarding of resources, very like that's definitely how it would play out. But even like movies like Planet of the Apes, where it's like it's post nuclear war, because it's like post Cold War, and it's like mutated like chimpanzees and gorillas, and it's like that's like not that realistic, you know. So it's interesting to see how like, yeah, this is like kind of wild, but like nothing is outside the realm of like, you know, possibility as far as like what, say if a nuclear war happened tomorrow, what the world would look like in, you know, 70 years. That's what I liked about it. And which is why I was like, I would think that's why it freaked me out more. I was like, no, Netflix, there's no AC. I can't have a Dr. Pepper. Goodbye. Thank you.
Not for me.
I'm checking out. I'll play the guitar for a little while, but then once the half-life comes for me, just shoot me in the back. Like I don't give a shit. I'm not being hooked up to Tom Hardy.
I kind of played myself in choosing this because I've seen it a few times, and I saw it when it came out in theaters in 2015, and then I saw it again a few years ago. And this film is like, everyone that I ever talked to about it, they're like, it's the best movie, like whatever. It's the best movie of 2015. And like, it's considered to be like one of the best movies of all time. And for a long time, the first 2 times I watched it, I was like, I didn't care about it. Like, I didn't really like it. And I wanted to watch this with you because I wanted to see if my thoughts on it would change. If like maybe I was missing something, and like you would be able to, you know, watch it for the first time and like have a different perspective. My thoughts have changed. Like I really, really like, I understand why people think it's like an amazing movie, because it is like very impressive what they did. Like all the effects in this movie, pretty much everything is like practical. It's insane. Like they spent 8 months filming this, and it's because everything was like, you know, had to be super safe. And so they had to like,
you know how much fire in that movie? Yeah. I was sweating watching it, and I was in an air conditioned hotel room.
So many flamethrowers and like explosions and
even
people flying around
coming out of it. I keep going back to this guitar.
It's just very impressive. And like, I knew that at the time when I watched it the first few times. I think I just had like a bias on like action movies, and I just am not an action movies person, because I feel like a lot of times the action is very hard to follow. But in this one, it's the way they filmed it. They were very particular to film all of the like focal points in the center of the frame, so that you're not having to look around the screen as much. So like each time it cuts to something new, even though there's a lot of action going on, you're not having to look for what to focus on, which makes the action a lot easier to follow. And I like that because it doesn't feel like it's like controlled chaos, you know?
I agree with that. I suppose my one criticism, if I can really, I mean, I'll just call it a criticism, and this is me kind of like, so the one thing that kind of bugged me was it was a lot of characters to follow, like during the action scene. So yeah, even if you're like, as you said, like it's one at a time, like you're focusing on one thing at a time, like unless it was like Max, Furiosa, Pillsbury Doughboy, or
like one of the wives.
Yeah, one of the wives. Like I was like, who are you? Like when they reunited with the with Furiosa's like original clan, and then they head back to the Citadel. Like when those women were like, they're bad bitches. Like don't get me wrong, I love them, but like when like, because two of them were older, so like when one would pop up and start shooting, I was like, which one are you? And then one got like chainsawed in the neck. I was like, is that the same lady? Like there's a lot of characters to keep up with, and so it was harder for me to be like, oh damn, like, you know, Nut Lady got wiped out, and it was and then it wasn't Nut Lady. I was like, oops. So
yeah, no, I agree. I have I still do have a few criticisms of the movie. I don't think it's like a perfect film, but my initial critiques the first few times watching it was like, oh, it's a stupid action movie, and like there wasn't much plot going on because they literally just like go one direction and then they're like, we have to go back, and then they go the other direction.
Yeah, I was like, damn.
But the director said he wanted to make a movie that was basically like nonstop action to see if he could do it.
He accomplished it.
I think he did, because it you know, compared to a lot of action movies where it's just like a lot of things smashing around, you don't really like, sometimes it goes on too long and you're like, all right, I'm just watching things explode.
Did have like a couple, it was nonstop action, but they did have like, it was like broken up pretty well. Like they would have like a 10-second scene where it was like no action. And you were like, cool. Like but it progressed the story. So it was like action, you're like, oh, and then there was like a 10-second scene where they're like, we have to do this now. And you're like, okay, they have to do this now. And then it was action again. You're like, oh. So like,
are you a fan of action movies, like in general?
I mean, I don't go out of my way to watch them, but like I can vibe. Like if it's a good movie, like if it's, I mean, that's so like subjective, but I guess it's, I don't know, if I can get into an action movie. Like if it like any movie, it really just depends.
Yeah. I think it's
but
really
I don't
to
dislike them, I should say.
Yeah. I think it's really hard to get the perfect balance between like action set pieces and story.
Yeah.
And for one that was like as ambitious as this one, I think they did a really great job. But overall, usually I'm not a fan of action movies because I find that they don't find that balance.
Yeah. And also, I think I'm more like, because I like comedy, I think like action comedies definitely get me. Like one of my favorite movies is The Other Guys, I've talked about before. And that's an action comedy. That is a fantastic, chef's kiss, beautiful movie. Like, where's its Oscar? But yeah, I can't really remember the last like bona fide, like pure 100% from concentrate action movie. Besides, obviously, Mad Max. I can't remember.
I mean, there's all the, you know, Marvel movies and, you know, just superhero movies are, you know, it's kind of built into them.
I suppose.
That they're action movies. I don't know. Whatever. Basically, my point is I like the movie. My thoughts have changed, especially after I did not make you watch the first 3, but I watched all of them in preparation for this podcast in order to talk about it.
She sent me a Snapchat. She was like, yeah, I watched all 4 in one day. And I was like, okay, I didn't realize there were 4. At first I thought you said you watched it 4 times in one day. And I was like, Olivia, like, wow. Dedication. No. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. No, I watched all of the Mad Max movies because I had not seen the other ones until I watched them for this podcast. And I definitely think it like
it doesn't. This movie and the other three, they're in the same universe, but I don't think you have to watch the other three in order to get this one. But in watching them, I feel like I have a bigger appreciation for this movie. Yes.
Okay. So I didn't look up the other three. I saw them like when I was searching for it. So like I know Mel Gibson, excuse me, was in at least one, if not the first three. And he was a cop. So like before was there still like a government? Because it seems like between, I guess, the third and Fury Road, like the government had completely collapsed because like there is no overarching like figure between these war clans in Fury Road. They're just these homeboys. I think they're brothers, aren't they? Like all three are related. I think they just call each other brother or something.
Yeah, I don't think they're actually related.
So it's like three bros, buddies, whatever, and they like
those three white guys that took over
literally
the Australians.
They're the three of them are some chunky monkeys.
Mm-hmm.
Considering everybody else is dying.
Do you want me to get into the history of the movies now, or do you want to keep talking about this one?
We can do it now. I'm sure.
Okay.
I'm sure I'll have something to say at some point.
Okay. All right. So the first Mad Max was made was released in 1979.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, it starred a young Mel Gibson as the titular character, Max. Rotansky or whatever his name is. I cannot pronounce it.
I think it's Rockatansky.
Yeah, Rockatansky, sure. He's an Australian cop during a time in the not so distant future where society is facing total collapse due to war and resource shortages. So in the first film, you're not given a backstory. It just says like a few years from now. So it's supposed to be a contemporary film, like in the mid 80s, basically. And it was made as the movie was George Miller's first film, and he used to be a doctor, and he wanted to make a film kind of based off of his experiences as a doctor treating car crash victims. And Max was originally supposed to be a journalist, kind of traveling around, experiencing these horrible things during this like kind of build up to an apocalyptic event, and losing his humanity and eventually becoming, basically just losing his humanity. But in the first film, he's a cop, he has a family. It's obvious things are not like normal because people are there's like roving gangs that are stealing resources and all that shenanigans. But it's not like full on apocalypse like this one is.
Is it still set in Australia?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Mel Gibson has an Australian accent?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
I don't know if I like that particular concept, but I don't. Whatever, it's fine.
I think it might have been his first movie because he was very young. Like,
well, if it's anything like his accent in Pocahontas, I'm not about it.
He had like an American accent in Pocahontas.
He tried like a couple times to like do sort of a British accent, and you're just like, okay, bitch.
He tried to do Braveheart, like an accent in Braveheart.
Oh yeah. He's just not an accent.
Yeah,
guy.
I don't know. But yeah, I think this might have been his very first movie because he was like super young.
Huh.
But the first movie was kind of the backstory that it's like loosely based off of was the 1973 oil crisis in Australia. I don't have like a ton of information on that. I just know that's kind of loosely what George Miller was basing the near future off of.
Mm-hmm.
In the movie, Max, his wife and son are killed by a roving gang of car people and motorcyclists. Basically, he goes and kills them all as an act of revenge and then becomes this wandering road warrior. And that's how the first movie ends. It's very different, like aesthetically, from Fury Road. Like it's nowhere near as far into the post-apocalypse as this movie. The second movie, Mad Max 2, Road Warrior.
Ooh, I like that.
Released in 1981. I believe it's supposed to take place 5 years after the first film. So he's kind of wandering around in
He's built up his resume as a road warrior.
Yeah. So the first film was pretty successful and was received pretty well, like pretty all over the world. And people were comparing Mad Max, the character, to a lot of different mythological heroes in different cultures. So like people in Japan were comparing him to a samurai. People in France were comparing him to like cowboys in Western films and just kind of like the stereotypical everyman hero. So George Miller was kind of like took him in that direction. Sorry, I hit the mic. Took him in that direction and made him just kind of like a everyman person, just kind of wandering around, following the hero's journey. And in the second movie, he's just like helping a group of settlers in the post-apocalyptic wasteland escape from more biker people. And that movie is more similar to this one. In the cars, the people are dressed pretty similar to how they're dressed in this movie. There's a lot of the practical effects going on. And it was like really impressive for 1981.
Like
and
the Fast and the Furious style. Like,
yeah, exactly. That movie is considered to be the kind of advent of the post-apocalyptic aesthetic. Whenever you see a movie now kind of about like a wasteland, like a post-nuclear war wasteland, it's kind of referring to Road Warrior and the aesthetic of that movie. Everything's dry and people are kind of feral in a way. And George Miller wanted a like more of a deeper backstory if he was going to continue to build the world. He teamed up with Terry Hayes to write a like really complicated backstory that was based on the 1979 oil crisis between Iran and Saudi Arabia, and basically was basing it around if Iran and Saudi Arabia the tensions had escalated into a nuclear war and basically set off a war.
Which is interesting because I don't believe at the time Iran or Saudi Arabia had nuclear weapons, but
yeah, I mean, it's basically just like if like they use the oil crisis. I don't really know a lot about the crisis itself, but it basically is just if tensions continue to rise, like, and war broke out, what would that look like and how would people fare? So that's where Mad Max 2 Road Warrior left us. And then Mad Max 3 happens 15 years after the second movie. It's called Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
Max is getting a little long in the tooth for doing all these fucking like car drag races and shit.
It was released in 1985. And apparently between the second movie and the third movie, there was a nuclear holocaust, which thrust society into what we see in Mad Max Fury Road, where society is kind of rebuilding itself. And we have these societies scattering around. So we start to see that in the third movie. In the second movie, it was more kind of just like people scattered around, kind of traveling in small groups. Third movie, we see small towns start to develop and people kind of taking on leadership and trying to kind of control larger groups of people. And then in Fury Road, we see like big cities. Yeah. The third movie is fine. I personally thought it was really entertaining because Tina Turner is like the bad guy.
No way. Yeah, no freaking way. I gotta watch this movie now.
It's very 80s. I don't know. I just thought it was fun. But that's where we left off with Mad Max in 1985. And then George Miller didn't want to make any more Mad Max films for a while. He thought he was done. But then in 1997, he wanted to make a TV show, Mad Max, but with an Australian actor in Australia. But the actor that they were going to give the role to passed away in a car accident.
Oh no!
Yeah.
So too close to home.
That was scrapped. He later teamed up with Brendan McCarthy to help him write like what would later become Fury Road. And Mel Gibson was still supposed to play Max, but things kept happening, basically. So they were
Mel kept
film,
opening his mouth.
Yeah. They were going to film, they were set to shoot in 2001, but that didn't happen because 9/11 happened and the American dollar like collapsed essentially. So they had to like postpone that. And then Miller moved on to direct Happy Feet. So moved on to some bigger and better things.
I get it. Like Mad Max, Happy Feet. Like,
yeah. I love when I found out that he directed Happy Feet. I was like, the range. I love it. It's amazing.
The two ends of the spectrum of George Miller's range.
It's amazing.
But I have a quick tidbit. Oh, I'm so sorry. You said Happy Feet and I thought of this quote and I had to make sure it was George Miller before I said it. So allegedly in a 2011 interview after they made the second Happy Feet, George Miller was asked if they would make a third one. And he said, if you put a gun to my head and said, you have to come up with a story for Happy Feet 3, I'd say shoot me. So he was gearing up for Mad Max Fury Road. He was not. I
feel like it's like really hard to jump back and forth between those two like mindsets.
Like one of the fucking penguins comes out on like a souped up like moped.
Yeah, those are some extreme opposites right there.
So I get it. He was definitely like literally shifted gears into Mad Max and he was like, fuck them penguins.
So he did Happy Feet, and then in 2005 they were supposed to shoot again with Gibson, but Gibson had his turbulence, as George Miller likes to say, in his life. Also, I think it was kind of a mutual decision between both of them that he was too old to play like a wandering road warrior, and he would have been like 50 years old, 60 years old. Max just like wandering around the desert. So instead of Mel Gibson, they were going to have Heath Ledger play Max. But, he passed away in 2008. So then Tom Hardy got the role.
I like Tom Hardy. I mean, I haven't seen Mel's performance as Max, but I did like Tom Hardy. It's just really funny. Like, people make fun of Tom Hardy because, like, most of the movies he's in, he does not have any lines.
He either doesn't have any lines or he's, like, wearing a mask the whole time.
Yeah, well, and it's both in fucking Mad Max. He has, like, I didn't count, but I would say like 12 lines in Mad Max.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's in fucking, he's Bane. He's in Dunkirk. He's the pilot. He has the oxygen mask on the whole time. Yeah, so like all the movies he's in, it's so funny. So I love Tom Hardy, but it is very like on brand.
They are giving two very different performances as Max. I'd say they're both like supposed to be stoic and like they don't say much. Mel Gibson's Max is much more charismatic, I think. And I don't know. It's just different. I think Tom Hardy was an interesting choice. I think a lot of what he decided to do with like his voice was weird.
He was very like,
and there was a lot of
like caveman like. He just did a lot of grunts. He was like, and then,
I think part of that is because he's supposed to be like very feral. Like he's been in the Wasteland for a while and he's just in this like survival mode. So like I get that, but
at the same time, tone it down, you're still a human.
There's like some choices that he does that I'm like, I don't know if this is working for me. But yeah, so Tom Hardy got the role of Mad Max and they were supposed to film in Australia in 2009, but massive rains turned the desert there into like a blooming garden. And they were like, oh, just wait a little bit and, it'll go back to the desert. And
like, fuck this garden. Like, what the hell?
It just never went back to desert. It's like just green and like flowers everywhere. So they finally made the movie in Namibia in 2012. And now we have Mad Max Fury Road.
Well, it's a great movie. So like all the setbacks were worth it in the end.
Yeah, I think if they had made it, in 1997 when they were supposed to, a lot of the practical effects and the CGI effects that we have now, they wouldn't have been able to do safely back then.
And you wouldn't really have Charlize, you know, like I don't think her career began in the late 90s.
I think she was acting back then. I don't think she was as big as she was in
I was going to say, but was she of the
but...
caliber to be Furiosa? I don't know if she was at that point. So
yeah, I'm not sure exactly.
I'm very glad it turned out the way it did. And they had Charlize, they had Tom Hardy and his little feral ass doing I even was really impressed with Nicholas Hoult. When I was watching it, I had no idea who this bitch was. Like, I was looking at him, I was like, you're obviously a big name if you're like the main skinhead, you know, the rogue skinhead. And then I was like, he looks like, I couldn't remember his name, but I was like, I knew the face. Like, I knew who he was. I just couldn't remember his name was Nicholas Hoult. And I looked it up. And I was like, yes, I know that bitch. So he did well. Like, he was good.
Yeah, I agree. He was like going all in. Like,
he was very committed to the role.
It was fun to watch him.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I was like, I don't know if this was your first movie or what, but like, you are in this role to win it, and I'm proud of you.
I liked his like what is it? Barry and Larry, his like tumors that he put like smiley faces on.
His little like weird like romance but not with the redhead was very cute. I was like, oh, like, because it feels like, to me, like it feels like those sort of like emotions and like those human emotions, like love, like, you know, loyalty. Like, there's loyalty, but it's like dominance, like loyalty to like the dominant person, not like loyalty out of like respect and camaraderie, you know what I mean? So like yeah, those feelings of like loyalty and like love and affection and like, you know, friendship, like you didn't feel that until like they kind of really decided to just stick together. And like he like kind of had this little like cutesy like puppy love kind of thing with the redhead. I don't remember any of the wives' names.
They're like really weird.
Yeah, they're really interesting names.
Zoe Kravitz's name was Toast the Knowing.
Oh yeah, Toast. I remember that. Like, because I had to put subtitles on. Honestly, like this movie, I was like, what in the fuck's going on? So like so it would just say Toast, and then it would be like a line. But then Zoe Kravitz would talk. I'm like, her name's not Toast, is it? Like, so
there's like Toast the Knowing, the Splendid Angarad.
Splendid is the very pregnant one who died. Yeah, I remember that. So I remember Doughboy was like, Splendid, that's my property. Yeah. I was like, ew. Splendid.
Capable, the Dag, Cheeto, the Fragile. So I guess there's only 5. There's only 5 wives.
Yeah. Yeah, Cheeto was the one that kept trying to run away. I was like, Cheeto, you weak ass. Like, get back in that truck. But she redeemed herself. She stuck it to the man at the end, and I was proud of her. But I think what I liked Nux's character because he was and Nicholas Holt's commitment to the role. Because it kind of showed it was like, oh yeah, redemption arc, whatever, but it was really like, it was more like he learned like what it was to be a human because he's so young. He was probably, I don't know how long the nuclear fallout was before this took place, like 15 years or something like that, but he would have been really, really young, if not unborn.
No, this is like, so Tom Hardy's character is like, there's a lot of discussion about where this falls in like the timeline of Mad Max, because Tom Hardy's character, if he was the Max from the original, should have been like 60.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. When you were like, yeah, the third movie takes place 15 years. I'm like, this guy was old. Like,
because he was like in his 40s in the third one. And this is like 20 or 30 years after that. And like all of the old ladies that we meet in the, you know, green place.
Yeah.
Were alive during the, you know, original Fallout. So nobody, like Furiosa, nobody was alive during any of that.
Okay.
They were born into this.
Got it.
Which
so
I think
either way,
it...
so he definitely doesn't know like human emotion, essentially.
I really liked the like religion that what is it? Immortan Joe.
Immortan Joe, fucking
like,
stupid ass name.
Put on the Half-Life War Boys, like.
And he was like spraying, like literally spray paint. Like that wasn't anything special, y'all. It wasn't drugs. It wasn't like, it was literally just a can of chrome spray paint that he's spraying on their teeth. I'm like, no wonder these little boys are dying. I was like, you're poisoning them.
Well, it's like part of like the, they're raised to know that they're not going to live long. And so they're raised to be like, I'm going to, I have to sacrifice myself and be witnessed. And when I do, I'll go to Valhalla, and that's where I'll have like my full life.
I know Immortan Joe wasn't some sort of like Norse religious guy. He just pulled Valhalla out of a book, and he was like, ah, yes, that's heaven. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very manipulative. I thought it was also interesting, and I was like, son of a bitch.
It's just interesting, like how even it's not even that long into a post-apocalyptic world, and people are can fall into being manipulated by a cult leader, essentially, out of desperation.
Cults spring up all the time, man. Like they're not around long before people are like, doing crazy shit, like giving, the pastor their life savings, or, maybe going to Guyana.
True.
So, I mean, I also thought it was interesting, but it didn't surprise me because like I said, that stuff like is already happening.
Yeah. It's just interesting to see in like a
and like the way they're praying was really interesting, like the gestures, and yeah, I was like, wow, that's kind of like the one girl was like doing the weird, it was like a mix between like a bow and like crossing yourself, like in you would do in like Christianity when you pray. So yeah, it was really weird. Or Catholicism. I don't know if everybody in Christianity crosses themselves. I know Catholics do, so
I think it's a Catholic thing.
Catholic and like Orthodox, I think, like cross themselves.
Let's talk about Furiosa.
Bad bitch. I liked her, like her claw. She like was definitely metal. I don't know, like she kind of felt like, I don't want to hate on her because like she was really awesome, but at the same time, she definitely like wasn't my focal point. You know what I mean? Like I didn't really give a shit about like her reason to like go to the green place. Like I didn't, like she was cool. She was like baller, but like at the same time I was like,
yeah,
they're all cool and baller. Like they all like shoot shit and like are thugs.
Yeah, I think that was one of the critiques I had the first few times I watched it, because like I was like, why do I care about her? Like she's badass and she says that she's doing this for redemption, but like I don't know
like,
anything
what is
about
she
her.
redeeming herself from? Like, because like they don't really say. Yeah. And also, if I may ask, do we know? Because like he's haunted by these like ghosts. Is that explained in the previous films or no?
Okay, so I'm going to answer Furiosa first. Okay. So it's nothing is explicitly said in the movie about like Furiosa's backstory, but I think it's speculated that she used to be Immortan Joe, like a wife of Immortan Joe, because she's, healthy and beautiful, just like, the other women are, but she's grown past that and has gained his trust enough to be an imperator, like a driver.
Yeah. He drives a war rig.
Yeah. So it's speculated that she used to be one of his wives and she's trying to get redemption for that part of her life. She was taken as a child because she was healthy and beautiful. And so that's one idea maybe as to like what she's doing and why she's doing it, because she can relate to these women and that's why she's decided to help them escape. And she knows this green place because it's where she was born and where she was taken from. Otherwise, I don't know what her backstory would have been, because it's not talked about in the movie. And it's one of the things that I have, like I've mentioned this before, like if I can't connect with like the main character and I don't really care it's hard for me to care what's going on. And so there's a lot of like forced emotion going on when there is like plot stuff happening.
Although to be quite honest, I was shooketh when the old ladies were like, yeah, that creepy ass like crow place you drove through, that was where we used to live.
Yeah.
I was like, ugh. Because like, what the hell are those dudes like still doing?
Just being cool and creepy.
Like they're like, everybody is like freaky in this movie, but like they were like the freaky of the freaky. You know what I mean? Like you're a special kind of person if you are like, if the dudes in the war rig driving like the slave wives to, you know, paradise are looking at you weird, like you're weird, you know?
Mm-hmm. I guess if we want to think about it like people living out there trying to survive, like they probably just adapted like walking on stilts as a way to easily get around without being like in the swamp, you know? I don't know. But it looks cool and it's like, you know, leaves these questions in your mind that, you know, you want to learn more about this world and like these people that live outside of the big city.
I do want to like just like take a drone. I don't want to go there myself, but like a drone and like hover over the crow
someone
people.
Else report back.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm doing it from like my gasoline tower or whatever. Just sending a fucking drone out there, be like, what are those hoes up to today? Like,
yeah,
I still don't get it. I'm like writing an anthology while like, you know, I'm eating like grapes from like an artificial tree, and you know, fucking all my servants have like liver disease from the nuclear fallout.
But yeah, it's I think
the nuclear fallout, and I'm a fat cat.
I think Furious is an interesting character, but I do think that one of the critiques I have is just kind of not enough backstory to make me care about some of the things that happen with her, or to like focus on her as the main character, even though it is pretty much her story.
I agree. I also feel like, I mean, you never know how you're gonna like behave in a situation like that until it happens. But I really feel like they kind of just joined forces too quickly. You know, like I get it, they were kind of like thrust, like the circumstances literally like forced them together. But she like trusted him with that like gear, like that combination to make the truck go. It was like 5 minutes. Like at first he like took off with the truck and left them in the desert, and she was like, son of a bitch. But then she was like, haha, he doesn't know how to drive it. And then 2 minutes later she was like, I'm gonna need you to drive this. Here's the entire instruction manual. Like here's my social security number back when that was a thing. Am I right? Just for shits and giggles, like photo ID. Anyway, so she was like, it just happened too fast. But then again, like a lot happened in the movie, so I feel like they're just kind of like, let's just like, and no, they're friends now.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't know, like how much more they could squeeze in between, you know.
And everything else was like imperative to the film. Like nothing could be cut out, you know.
It was basically.
I'm sure that movie was originally like 4 hours, and George Miller was like, "Oh my god, like how do I cut this down?"
There was no script. It was all storyboards. Like everything was storyboarded because he wanted to plan out the action like literally frame by frame, and he did. There was no script, which was like really frustrating for the actors because they didn't know what they were filming. They just he told them what to do, and they had no idea.
Did they all make up their lines, or was there eventually like a script written around?
I think there was like a working script, like you know, with lines, but in regards to like a screenplay, there was no screenplay. So Charlize Theron and Tom Hardy like did not get along when they were filming. I think because one, they were filming in like Africa for 8 months and had no idea what they were doing, and were basically filming action scenes for 8 months. So I think it was just a mixture between being exhausted, frustrated with not really knowing what's going on, and being there for 8 months. And Tom Hardy and the director butted heads a lot because Tom Hardy just like was frustrated that he didn't know what was going on, and so he would kind of like lash out But later they all kind of reconciled. Like Tom Hardy sent Charlize Theron a note basically being like, you're a pain in the ass, but I miss you. And like he publicly apologized to George Miller for being difficult to work with because he just like didn't trust that he knew what he was doing. Which makes me feel better that Tom Hardy.
George Miller's made 3 other movies like of the same storyline, like, and this is like probably one of your first movies. Like, if I was George Miller, I'd be like, you know what, like, okay, boo boo, like, suck my wiener, like, I've done this before and it's been very successful. I also did Happy Feet, so you want to be on that sequel,
I know what the
or do you
fuck
want to
I'm
be
doing.
in Mad Max 5 or whatever?
Yeah.
Happy Feet 3 or Mad Max 5. Your choice, bitch.
Okay, I guess I can answer your second question, unless you have anything else about Furiosa.
Not really.
Okay, so your second question was
the ghost,
the like flashback things that Max keeps having.
If that was like mentioned in the previous films, because that like made a little sense. It was like I kind of liked that they didn't really talk about it, but at the same time, I was like, oh, maybe this is something I just missed from the previous films.
No. Okay. Easy answer. No. The flashbacks in Fury Road specifically were not like part of the other movies, but if you have seen the other movies, it gives you kind of context as to like what they are. So we see basically he keeps seeing a child flashing and like other random people kind of telling him, like asking like, why did you leave us? Like, why didn't you help us? And that goes back to the idea of Max being like an everyman, just kind of random mythological hero that wanders around and like finds himself helping random people throughout his journeys through the Wasteland. So first Mad Max, we're introduced to Max as a character as a whole. Second Mad Max is when we kind of get that like wandering hero. He is just kind of part of this other group's story. And same with the third one. In the third movie, he finds like a group of kids that live in a crack in the earth that is basically like an oasis. There's water and green and stuff, and they just live there because it's, you know, habitable.
Resources, yeah.
So I know a lot of people try to connect the kid that he keeps seeing in the fourth movie to those kids, but I'm interpreting it as he has a drive to help people because he doesn't feel like he deserves, like he feels like he has to because he failed his wife and his son who were murdered in the first film. So he's just driven to like wander alone and help people that he finds and survive. But not be a part of anything, not be a part of any city, any group of people. And so I think my interpretation is the flashbacks that he sees are people that he wasn't able to help between the third movie and the fourth movie. So it's basically he's just being haunted by the people that he came across that he wasn't able to help, or the people that he let down, including his wife and his son and, you know, random people in the Wasteland. So you don't have to have seen the first 3 to like, it doesn't tell you anything about like who they are, but that's just having seen them, that's my interpretation of what the flashbacks were. Did that kind of like confuse you watching it? Like,
they didn't really, like, it kind of, because like he kind of talks, he does a little like his longest line is like the first 10 seconds of the film where he's like, I am Max, I was a cop, and now the world is nothing, blah, blah, blah. And then he eats a lizard.
I run from both the living and the dead.
Yeah. So, like, that was enough for me to be like, okay. So, like, it didn't really matter because, like, it was just shit that, like, occasionally happened. He was like, whoa. And you're like, oh, cool. Right. We forgot he has demons. Quick reminder of why he's so distant. He has demons, guys. So it didn't really matter to me. I was just wondering if it was because I hadn't seen the other movies, if that was something I was missing. And like, other than that, like, I didn't really feel like the other movies, like I needed to see them, which was nice. Yeah. But I definitely, now that you've described them, I definitely do want to go back and watch them. But I liked it. I do like it as a a standalone film.
Yeah, it definitely works because it's not necessarily a sequel.
Right.
Because, Mel Gibson isn't Max and Tom Hardy is not 60 years old. So
could you imagine if they tried to do it like linear and it was fucking like Tom Hanks playing Max? I would love it. Actually, let's grab it. Let's redo Mad Max Fury Road. Everything's the same. It's Tom Hanks, not Tom Hardy.
Where's the water? Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that would be definitely a different movie. I don't know if he could do action like that.
He doesn't talk. Well, he did sort of action movies, like war movies. He did, Saving Private Ryan.
He wasn't like crawling all over vehicles and like shooting people and like doing hand-on-hand combat.
Hey, I feel like if he really put his mind to it, Tom Hanks could redo Mad Max Fury Road as Max. Especially because like there's not that many lines, so like you're not focusing on like his actual like performance as an actor. He's just like the perfect 60-year-old man. Like I feel like even when he was young, he was 60 years old. Not in a bad way. He just has aged so gracefully. You look at Tom Hanks and you're like, this is like your final form.
I would not buy him as a wandering road warrior. Though.
Hey, he also did Castaway, and he was like feral and like, bearded and
but he was like, still like driven by humanity and like being around people, whereas Max is kind of just like his own little ecosystem. I don't know.
I feel like it would be a great challenge for Tom Hanks.
I'd love to see it. I think it'd be hilarious.
I would also love to see it. Once again, nothing changes except we take out Tom Hardy and we replace him with Tom Hanks.
What if we just allow every Tom in Hollywood to have a chance to be Mad Max? So we get Tom Hanks.
Except Tom Cruise.
No, I was gonna say Tom Cruise because like he is like the king of action movies.
That's true.
Who else is it? Tom
Holland.
Oh my gosh. He'd be like
he would be one of the skinheads. There's no way he would survive.
Yeah, he'd be a war boy.
He'd be a war boy.
I think he'd be good as a war boy.
I think so too. I think he could replace Nicholas Hoult, although Nicholas Hoult is very married to that role. I don't know if it's possible.
I think it would be interesting to see Jason Momoa play Max because he's got that like kind of rugged.
But I feel like Jason, he's rugged, but he's like beefy. Like he's a built man. Like he's a fine, very fine built man.
He doesn't have to be though. Like he can be smaller for the role. But
not to objectify, but like, do we want that?
He can always build, like, get muscle back, but he could be like Christian Bale and just constantly change his body size. Like for
I feel like Christian Bale's metabolism has to be fucked.
Yeah, I don't know how that man is healthy.
Also, like Mark Wahlberg, he's like gained.
Can we imagine him as Max? Be like, what's happening?
Mark Wahlberg is Mad Max. No. Oh my God, that'd be
what? No. Oh, that'd be so funny.
Oh no. Oh no.
Anyways, back to the movie.
If we must, that's gonna haunt me.
Let's talk about Immortan Joe.
Yeah. Pillsbury Doughboy meets what the hell did I say? Bane.
Mm-hmm.
In a plastic suit.
I think he's a very effective villain. He's very like scary because he's gross.
He's nasty. Yeah, I did not want to look at his ass. Also, if I was one of the wives, I would have like escaped sooner. I would have thrown myself off of like one of those water towers had I known like I had to like bump uglies with that pillowy, like oozing infectious mass of nastiness. With like a comb over but a mullet at the same time.
Yeah, so Immortan Joe was played by Hugh Keys Byrne, and interestingly enough, he played the bad guy in the first Mad Max. He was much younger then, but they're not the same character. He dies in the first movie. He plays Toe Cutter, who was like the head of the biker gang who kills Mad Max's son and a wife. But he came back to play Immortan Joe in this movie.
He died.
Who?
Hugh Keys Byrne. I just looked him up. He died in 2020, December 1st.
Wow. R.I.P. Yeah, he's a very sweet man. Or was a very
British
sweet
Australian.
man.
So they did have at least one Australian actor in this Australian movie. The way he's dressed at the premiere of Mad Max Fury Road, he's in a khaki jacket, like a cropped jacket, covered in like patches and buttons. Like he looks like a very like Jimmy Buffett Santa.
Yeah.
Like Margaritaville Santa.
Yeah, I feel like when you see him without the mask, he just looks like a very sweet man that you like want to be friends with. But with the mask and the makeup and everything, he's very scary.
He is very scary.
He did a great job as Immortan Joe.
Immortan Joe is very interesting. I was like, because it's like, I feel like there's a lot of villains like that. Like, for example, like fucking Darth Vader. Like, they're all these like sick, crusty old dudes that are just like suited up in this sick armor. And then they're scary. But like, I was thinking about this a lot like recently because there's like so many like just intimidating people in the world. They're just people or like sacks of flesh in some cases at the end of the day, you know what I mean? So like if you take a lesson from this, it's that everyone takes a shower, hopefully. Everyone takes dumps and they eat from Tupperware and they, you know, they're stuck in traffic just like the rest of us. And you know, so if somebody's intimidating, just think about the everyday shit that you do and just remember that, like, they wipe their ass. You know what I mean? Hopefully. So, like, people are less scary when you think about that.
True. Very true.
Sorry, that was a really random tangent. That's just something that's been on my mind recently. And, like, thinking about Immortan Joe and, like, how weak he truly was. Like, if you took away that little plastic shield and, like, just ripping off that mask, like, that killed him, which... I sent you a Snapchat. My face, literally, when that happened, I was like, that was like the nastiest part of the movie. I was like, ugh.
I guess we can talk about the ending now. Now that we're getting close to wrapping up. So, like you said, we see Furiosa go and rip off his mask. And all she says is, you know, do you remember me? Which I guess plays into the conspiracy that she used to be one of his wives. And then they go back and everybody's like happy that he's dead, but then they like eat him or something.
I know that
they
was
throw
wild.
him on the ground and
I get it because y'all are starving clearly, like he really deprives you of resources, but that's irradiated flesh. Like I know you guys are dying, but like
gross.
Yeah. And it's human flesh. Like I wasn't even thinking about that. I was thinking about like the radiation that blasted through that boy.
And then Furiosa and the ladies go back up to, I guess, rule the world. And then Max wanders off, I guess, to go wander the wasteland again because he still can't be around people.
It made me sad, but I was like, I understood, you know? Like I could gather that he was not like he wasn't a community builder. He was a wanderer. He's a cowboy. On a steel horse he rides. He is wanted.
Bon Jovi is that song's just about Mad Max.
Wanted. He wrote it in 2015. Dead or alive.
Yeah. So you like the ending?
I did. I liked the idea that they, you know, that these women, these like, it is. I mean, they were women, which was awesome. But like these people were able to just like start over and like hopefully do it better, if not the right way. And that like the green place could, you know, live again. Because they have access to water now and stuff like that. And it was very hopeful. Like it made me hope that was something that lasted. And it was nice that like that Max just disappeared into the crowd. Furiosa was like, okay, peace, bitch. Like, I knew you for like a week, whatever. And then she was off on something else.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I watched it, I was like confused, like why he was leaving. Because like I had no context for, you know, the first few Mad Max films. So I was like, why wouldn't he just stay? Like they have water, they have food. Like, why would he leave? But, you know, getting to know Max as a character a little bit more makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any other thoughts, like favorite part or criticisms or anything that you want to talk about?
No, I got pretty much all of it out of the way. Like, I wasn't like the characters. They were just like so many. I mean, most of them like low-key didn't matter, but like when you were like, yeah, when somebody would die, I'm like, and then like somebody who looked very similar to them was still on the screen. I'm like, what the hell just happened? You know. But it was overall, it was a good movie. Like, I would watch it again. I would probably watch that movie like several times, not in a row. Like, give me a few weeks, give me a month, I'll watch it again. You know?
Yeah. Cool. So you think you're gonna go watch the other Mad Maxes just to check
Oh yeah,
them out?
definitely. Like, I'll have to compare. I need to know what Mel Gibson's at in this movie because I'm curious.
Maybe we'll do like a part 2 to this after you watch those, down the line, and just see how you feel. Because I'd like to know your thoughts.
Mad Max Revisited. Mm-hmm. Do you think they're gonna make another one?
I think that they were like planning to. I don't know where like it is. I don't know what the status of it is now. I have not kept up with it, nor have I looked into it since researching this. But I do think that they were planning on making another one because it was open-ended. If nothing else, they were going to make a Furiosa movie.
See, I don't know if I want
her backstory, but
I don't. So I would have loved a backstory in Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want a Furiosa like spin-off.
I think I agree. I don't know if I need it.
Like, if anything, Mad Max, like, if they do another Mad Max where, like, he runs into Furiosa again, like, say they make, like, because I feel like I have to see the others.
Yeah.
But this is me just generalizing, like, just speaking as somebody who only watched the first, or the fourth one. I feel like, excuse me. I feel like Mad Max is, like, a franchise that you can make so many movies from because there is such a vast universe. There's so many different like scenarios that you can like create from like a nuclear fallout and post-apocalypse and shit like that. So I feel like you can make like it's like Fast and Furious. You can make like fucking 12 of them and they're all like just like awesome action movies. I haven't seen all, however many Fast and Furious there are. I've seen a few. But, like, the core concept is like nuclear fallout, crazy cars, feral Max, and then you just like throw in whatever the hell you want. So if they make like 3 more and then they reintroduce Furiosa, like, is she the villain? Is she like an ally again? Like, what's the deal? Like, spice it up, but don't start spinning off because then it turns into like some like Star Wars shit and like,
Yeah.
And then it becomes hit or miss. Then it becomes like super hit or miss.
I think what the Tom Hardy Mad Max movie did was kind of turn it into like a James Bond kind of situation where like it can be interchangeable. It's the same character, but like you can reinvent it as you go and still have like threads of the old movie, but they're not necessarily connected chronologically or
so who would you have, like, say if it was a James Bond like situation, realistically, who would you have like as the next Max?
I mean, like I said, I think that what's his face? Who did I say?
Jason Momoa.
Yeah, I think Jason Momoa would be like really interesting just because that's like when I'm envisioning a feral guy living in the wilderness. I think he does that very well.
I'm trying to think, like, of course, like, as far as like an action movie, I think of like action actors. So of course, like, Chris Evans popped into my mind. I don't want him. He's just like, action actor.
He's like too nice looking.
He's too polished. Like, you couldn't, I really feel like it'd be a lot of work to make that bitch rugged. I don't know why.
Make him look like he's been in the wilderness for years.
But I think,
maybe Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, if they made one where it was like an older Max, Hugh Jackman would be an interesting choice. Like, he'd be a good choice because he's like fucking Wolverine. Like, he's
also Australian.
And he's also, they might leave an Australian guy in the role. But I don't know. Much to ponder.
Yeah, I don't know.
They would have to cast me as the guitar guy, though.
Yeah.
In the
Absolutely.
next Fury Road again.
Fury Road again. Like somewhere in the movie, they're gonna be like, "Where are we going? We're going to Fury Road," and then they point at the screen. They said the name of the movie. Yeah.
And I'm just jamming.
I'd watch it for sure. All right. Well, I guess we can wrap up this episode of Another Picture Show podcast. Thank you, as always, for letting me boss you around and tell you what movies to watch and listening to me rant about things about the movie.
I liked this movie. I liked talking about it. I wasn't sure. I was like, wow, like there's so like I was like, it's an action movie. Like, how much is there to talk about? And then I'm just like ranting about like fucking, nuclear apocalypse and stuff like that. So it was great. I enjoyed the movie. Like I said, I'd watch it again. So
good.
There you go, kids. There's our review.
There is our review. So if you liked what we had to say and you want to listen to us talk about more movies, you can listen to us anywhere you get podcasts. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all that jazz. You can also follow us on Instagram at Another Picture Show. And that's about it. So we will we will be back next week with another movie review. Love you, Madalyne. I'll see you next week.
See you, buddy.
Bye.
Bye.